impeccable timing. We're
Oh,
live.
we're live. Wow. That's crazy.
Welcome to another episode of Fandom Spotlight Reacts, as we're going to cover the amazing finale of season 1 of Andor. It is I, your host, Mr. Matthew Porter, aka Matty Ice, with producer extraordinaire Darth Plagueis the Wise himself, representing the DB4L squad. Mr. Mikey Campbell, how you feeling today, good brother?
I am feeling flustered, but ready to go. I wasn't running around my house for the last 5 minutes trying to get my computer to work, but we're here.
For all the fans at home, Mikey just threw a Hail Mary heave and made it on literally as we went live. So it appears as if it is going to be one half of Team Two Box this evening for the Andor World Tour. We want to send well wishes to Gali. She doesn't feel too well today, so we're going to send her positive vibes and healing energy. And Miso, it's family time. A lot of people are with their family right now. That could be that. If she makes it in, we would love to have her. If she can't, we'll hold it down. We'll hold it down for the team and all her wisdom. Because once again, being the fastest rising Jedi in the history of the temple, she predicted a lot of things again.
She
so
did.
I would have loved to pick her brain about how she kind of picked up on those bees, but we'll hold it down for just in the meantime. So Mike, I kind of liked how we did it last week, how we didn't really go through the episode beat for beat. We kind of just did a real quick recap and then just kind of went through each character's journey leading up to the episode. Because as great as this episode was, it was very self-contained. Like everything happened in Ferrix. It was around Marva's funeral processions and kind of like a changing of the guard, going from kind of Luthen's sneaky behind closed doors hidden rebellion, where they were kind of like growing, bubbling under the surface but kind of moving in the shadows, to just kind of like, nah, we're here. Like kind of more of the Rebel Alliance that we've seen in like in Star Wars Rebels, or of things of that nature, where they're kind of like loud and proud. We're not gonna take it. We're starting
We ain't
get
gonna
that.
take it.
We ain't not anymore.
No.
So I kind of just want to stick with that again, because if we would have just kind of just go beat for beat for the episode, there really isn't too many different set pieces. Like I said, it was Marva had passed last episode, and we knew Cassian was gonna try to make his way to that funeral, even though it was a terrible idea for him to do so. And this kind of was every core character that has been in the show thus far, just kind of all coming down on Ferrix and just having everything take place on, what was it, Rick's Road?
Rick's Road, yeah. The name of the episode and the place where everything went down.
Yeah, so just kind of to run through it briefly, Marva had pre-recorded a message with B2 Emo, which basically was like her call to arms. We kind of been seeing the seeds of rebellion, double entendre, don't ask me how, be planted through her, which each episode, she had mentioned that she's been spending a lot of time in the sewers, like looking for like underground tunnels and caverns for the rebellions to be able to sneak in. And people just kind of like, oh, fooey, crazy old lady, whatever you say. But we really saw like everything that she was doing up until her death, kind of just like leading it crazy parallel. And I don't know if this was done on purpose, but we recently did a Black Panther Wakanda Forever review, and we had kind of mentioned, and we've all at this point know the legend of a human being Chadwick Boseman was, to be going through what he was going through while sick, and literally no one knew. Like everybody knew Marvel was like older and had to take medicine and stuff, but knowing that she was like that close to the end of her life, but was like literally in the sewers, crawling around, like just finding exits and making plans and putting all this together behind the scenes to take Ferrix back. Because we had mentioned like episode 2 or 3, after Cassian ran away, when they were like setting up, like the Empire, the ISB was like setting up shop in Ferrix, but they like never kind of touched on it. Like it's just kind of like just built chambers for all these ISB agents and stuff that were just kind of just guarding over and holding Ferrix down like a fort. And we were just like, yeah, I wonder why they keep kind of like referencing that but not really going into it. And now we see like Ferrix was basically under martial law. They pretty much was just on lockdown since Cassian did what he did all those many moons ago. And this was them taking that back. So Mike, before we kind of go through each character beat, how did you feel about this episode?
It was explosive.
I just
yeah, pun intended for sure. But like, I just can't believe that it all kind of culminated so well. There was so many threads that were going on throughout the season. And listen, not all the threads led there. I think Mon Mothma was missed a little bit in this episode. We did kind of catch up with what
Oh,
was going on
I
towards the
can't wait to
end.
talk about what
Yeah,
she did.
we'll talk about it for sure. But it was just like, wow, like I think I'm happy that my prediction was wrong. I really thought that we were going to lose a lot more of our brothers
As
and
did
sisters on Ferrix, but
as did I.
it didn't quite turn out that way, and it makes for a compelling story. You know, I'm excited to see where it almost feels like we got more screen time with some of the citizens of Ferrix in this episode than we did throughout the entire series, which is crazy because we spent several episodes there. But to kind of see you know, the shopkeeper's son, you know, be such a driving force there, and like
I
his
love that.
emotional impact on like the battle, and you know, Bix finally kind of getting her way out of just like multiple hours, days, maybe a month of torture, you know, to finally like see the light. And then obviously it's kind of crazy that we have Cassian coming back but barely interacting with any of them, and then he just sends them
Yeah,
on their way. You know,
yeah.
it's I think we all have that friend that is like, it's fleeting, but when you see them it's great, and then
Oh my God.
yeah, they
You
like
catch
yeah,
it like no time's been lost. Yeah,
and when they're gone
absolutely.
it's like, wow, like I wish they would have stuck around more, but you know, they have bigger things ahead of them, and Cassian very much has bigger things ahead of him. So
Yeah. It's crazy you say that because it's like I feel like at least for us, you know, the watermark of this show has been don't expect what you think is gonna happen.
mhm.
Because it's like, and again, I don't know if that was by design or if because we're like OG Star Wars fans, that was us being like two in our own heads with like what because Star Wars is very formulaic. You talked about this in the past and just thinking like, oh, this is usually what Star Wars does in these scenarios. But for the most part, it's just like every long-term booking decision that we kind of thought was going to happen didn't happen, and I'm
Mhm.
not mad at it at all. Like I'm really excited, and I kind of will like break down character by character. And I guess who can we say, do you have someone you want to start with? Do you want to start with, do you want to jump right in with mine? Do you want to go Luthen? Do you want to go Vel? Do you want
Let's
to go
actually
Dedra?
start. Let's start with Cassian. I mean, the
Okay,
namesake of the show. There are a
I'm
few
with it.
things. It's like I think it would be remiss if we didn't bring up some of the plot threads that are just like, wow, that's still lingering out there. Like his sister.
We
I
did say early
we
on
really
that we
I
don't
think
think
we
that she
thought
was gonna
that
pop
like that was
up.
gonna rear its head, but she didn't end up popping up, and that's crazy. To see him have just these broken and emotional moments with who I would consider his best friend at this point, which is I there's so too many citizens of Ferrix to remember their names. I'm going to call him the brick holder for right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
But like
I call him a Tim too because he kind of looks like
he does
Tim.
kind of look like Tim. So so Tim 2 giving him the closure he needed to hear from Marvo was like very touching. But
Yeah,
it does, like, Cassian is broken in that moment, and it kind of shows his resilience because he takes that but keeps moving forward to get Bix out. But then you kind of see him break again when he confronts Luthen at the end of the episode, and he's
yeah,
just like, either kill me or indoctrinate me, essentially.
yeah. Like kill
And
me or leave me alone. Was that a
yeah,
callback line? Because did they recycle that line? I swear that's what he had said to him at one point. Or I feel like I had heard that
kill me
sentence.
or take me in. I can't.
Yeah,
I'll have to go back and rewatch the series, which, let's be real, I definitely will. But I can't say for sure that that was a
yeah,
callback to an earlier episode. Um, and other than that, we're just kind of like watching him use his skills that he has displayed throughout the show to get a meaningful character out, right? The
yeah,
connection to Axis, that is like, you can say all day that Cassian is the reason why they're there, but Bix is the one who like kind of like led the horse to the water, and both Luthen and Cassian drank. So for him to get out such like kind of like a linchpin off of Ferrix, I think was like a huge story move. And you know, hopefully we see that ripple out. Obviously, I don't think that we're going to end up seeing a lot of those characters make it to the where Rogue One ends up. But who
exactly.
knows? Who knows? Maybe the Ferrix family will end up getting to a place where they all just hang out on like a beach on Gleansum or
It is a
something.
large galaxy. It is a large galaxy. They could just be living there.
Yeah.
You know what? They're where wherever Cal Custis is, that's where the Ferrix family is sharing residence. But I love the point that you had brought up about the fact that he had all these long-standing relationships with these characters kind of like built in even before the show started off screen and then throughout the show, but like he didn't really have interactions with them. Like him and Bix didn't really get that like best friend / ex lover reunion, or even him and B2 Emo didn't have like
Mhm.
that I missed you bro moment. He was just kind of just like, all right, yeah, y'all gotta go. Like I gotta do what I gotta do. Did you? My heart was in like my stomach. I just knew that ship was about to get blown up. like like
I
like
did not. I didn't
I
know what to
swore.
expect, and I feel
I
like
swore.
that would have been a really heart wrenching moment to have him watch like this family of his, or like
Yeah.
found family, if you will, go and try and make their escape, and then just get blown out of the sky.
I thought we were gonna get like a Rise of Skywalker. Chewbacca, was he or wasn't he on the ship
But
moment?
not a
Like I
fake
thought,
out.
yeah, but not a fake out. I was
Oh
like, damn,
man,
none of these characters are in Rogue One. This is it.
yeah, right.
This is
They're
how
like
they wipe the board.
they're not gonna make it.
But
It's
yeah, but I did love that part. Another thing that I did like about the speech with Tim too is that Marva has been basically saying to Cassian like, yo, you're not doing enough. Like
Mhm.
we live in piss poor living conditions. You act like you're okay with this. Like you can't be okay with this. Like you're complacent. This is why the empire is so strong, because basically saying like it's because of mindsets like yours as to why the empire has been thriving. It's like
Yeah,
you take what you can get. You just status quo, cog on the wheel, whatever analogy you want to use. And she was just like, yeah, that ain't it. And she was like, I know if you see things the way that I see things, you'll want to make a change. Like
yeah,
you'll be like, I can't do this. But I love that the last thing that she said or had relayed to him was kind of just like a built-in like, hey, even if you aren't the man, even if you don't rise to the occasion, I still love you. Like her saying
hmm,
like, let him know that I'll love him more than anything that he'll ever do. So it's just like
hmm,
I took that as like, Marvel wanted more for her son, but she knew that she wouldn't be able to see him like grow or potentially not grow. But she wanted him to like, yo, like even if you don't rise to the occasion, like I still love you.
yeah,
And I think like that moment, like him hearing that, like saying like, damn, like even if I decide like not to become a rebel captain, like my mom still knows that like I did my best.
yeah,
like
yeah.
was that Dan Cook? I did my best. I did my best. I did my best. I did my best. Like, so it's just like I feel like that pressure, because I feel like that's kind of been Cassian's issue, is just like he always felt like the weight of the world was on him. Like it was like it's my responsibility to find my sister because I abandoned her. Marva, being a parent, but a pushy parent, but a parent nonetheless, like saying like, yo, you need to do more, you need to help, you need to come
Hmm.
on the rebellion, like get in it. Like he was just like, yo, that's not the life I want to live. I just want to keep my head down, scam some people every now
Yeah.
and again, search some titty bars for my sister. Like I have a sister mom. Right? But I feel like him having that pressure, he felt like, yo, I can never live up to that. Like Marva's always been a rogue, pun
Yeah.
intended. She's always been a trailblazer. He was just like, oh, that's not me. Like, but so I guess like her saying like, yo, if you do it, great. If you don't,
Yeah.
great. He was just like, damn, I can do this. Like,
Yeah, and I think that there are people in this world and characters that need to be pushed.
mhm,
Cassian he doesn't like outgrow his need to be pushed even by Rogue One. There are things that push
true.
him in that sense too, but it's like everything pushes him further, and like what he's capable is so much greater. And I love that like that is something that motivates him to do more. But right before it, we get a scene of him reminiscing to a memory of Clem, teaching him that
Oh
like
yeah,
the
that was
people
so
who
good.
see everything, are able to like grasp the bigger picture. And Cassian toes the line between like, okay, I'm like viewing everything and I'm letting the information kind of like come to me and download, but
Hmm.
like Marva, Jin Urso, these other factions of like these other characters in the rebellion are what pushes him to use that knowledge for good. Otherwise, I think that we'd have someone who is a little too cautious. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
and it's great to kind of like see it's like, okay, he really is the sum of his parts. So I think we all kind of take like tendencies or and stuff from the people who raise us in certain ways, and to grow past what either like they believe we can do or what we can believe we can do is a huge character step. And I'm glad that we got to see that in this episode. I'm glad that like it informs Rogue One to a point where you're like, wow, I can appreciate that a lot more. And I'm sure we'll see more moments like this happen in season 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And a big credit that I want to like tip my hat to like Diego Luna, because like a lot of times with prequels, not just in like the Star Wars universe, but like movies in general, like sometimes I feel like the reason as to why characters that we know to be a certain way, like the delivery sometimes can fall flat. Like sometimes it's not like their most dominant character trait, like you find out why they're like that. Like it's just like, oh, that's why. like whatnot. But I feel like what this show did so well is it's like, again, because like I went back and watched Rogue One before the finale, because I haven't watched Rogue One probably in like years. And
Mhm.
and we talked about this. We're one of the ones that actually like Rogue One. It's a very divisive movie. You either liked it or you didn't. There isn't
It's
really.
one of those things where it's like, yeah, you'd like it or you didn't. I would say that up until this point is my least favorite Star Wars movie.
I would agree. Nah, Solo's probably my least favorite
I
Star
love
Wars
Solo,
movie.
but at the
Do
same
you?
time, well, I think Solo captures like the fun of Star Wars, and the people who
very,
like poo-pooed
very
it, I
true.
feel like honestly haven't even watched it. Like that's like the vibe I get.
Nah, I feel you.
However, with Rogue One, like this movie's going to move up a lot of people's lists if it's
Because of the
lower
show.
because of the
Because of the
show.
show. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's the point that I was gonna make. Like you just said, like going back and watching Rogue One, because I like I said, I hadn't watched it in years, and then I was just like, let's see if they, if Cassian's like character was really for us. Because especially like a lot of times when you do prequels, like years after a film come out, sometimes it can like play off like reversed. Like it
Mhm.
doesn't seem like what you're watching now is what took place before, and you have to like remind yourself, like, oh, this is a prequel. This is a
Right.
prequel, because it seems like the characters like further developed now than what they were in the
Yeah,
movie that's
yeah.
supposed to take place before. But now with this, it's just like, oh shit, like no, this is
Yeah, he really is growing to that point. Like
yeah,
this is
yeah,
great. And the thing is
exactly.
like, okay, listen, we're obviously talking on Fandom Spotlight right now. Like the things we covered, there are shared universes out there, and a
Mhm.
lot of stories are more rich for it. This is one where it's like, okay, we got like an HBO level show on Disney Plus.
1000,
Like, don't get me wrong,
1000%.
I love Obi-Wan, and I'm a big fan of all the live action projects that they've done so far. But I'd be lying if I said wasn't the best acted, the best written, and it's missing all of my favorite parts of Star Wars, and I'm still here like beating this drum, just like the fucking band walking through Rick's Road. That
Oh,
this
yeah,
show is the like one of the best things that we have gotten in Star Wars, and
absolutely.
it should be celebrated as that. Yet it feels like it's kind of like maybe fallen off everybody's radar. Listen, we had a big fall season of television watching. Like every show I've watched has been,
So much TV.
and it's been good. It's all been good. Like I think
Absolutely.
it's kind of crazy that Andor is the one that's like from a timeline perspective, it's the last to finish, but it has hit so many different like strings, and I'm just like, wow, like this is what Star Wars can be. I kind of hope
Yeah.
that creators in the future reference this is the tone I'm looking for, because we can have a more mature Star Wars. I'm fine that somewhere else in the galaxy like Ezra and Zeb are stealing fruit at the same time
Hell
in the
yeah.
galaxy. You know what I mean? Like it's such a rich universe that we can have those stories coincide. But yeah, it's gonna be all the greater for it in the end. And Cassian and like you said, Diego Luna are doing they're like he's doing a fantastic job of making us feel like the character is back further than he was, and that like the
Yep.
sum of his adventures will lead up into this pinnacle moment for him.
Yeah.
um, it's really exciting to see, and it's nice to have writers on board like Tony Gilroy, who maybe not be the biggest Star Wars fan, but kept that in mind as they're like writing the story.
Yeah, that's another good part that I was actually so simpatico. I was actually going to lead into that. It's like the showrunners, the directors, like the set designers, the screenwriters, and everything. Like they really encapsulated like what Star Wars is, or not even what Star Wars is, like what the parts that we as fans love about Star Wars.
Mhm.
Like the term fan service is like such an overused term now, but it's just like they took the same type of care that Dave Filoni always takes. Like,
Mhm.
and that's what I felt. And I was just like, I never remember the name of the director for the show, like the main one, like the one who's like overseeing the show, or whatever. But like they're probably going to be brought back from many things in the Star Wars universe, like from now on, because like they put their foot in this show
I
and
hope so.
everything. Yeah, and it's kind of funny. Like I think because they didn't give us any of the traditional tropes like Jedis or Sith or Obi-Wans or lightsabers, or because they didn't have like the shackles, for lack of a better term, of like that, oh, we need to hit these beats because we have these types of characters. They kind of had a lot more freedom to like play around, which is kind of, in hindsight, that's kind of like what Rogue One did, which a lot of people didn't like about it, because they
Mhm.
was just like, oh, this doesn't feel like Star Wars. Like, feels like Star Wars adjacent, which that's kind of the point. Like,
Yeah.
that was kind of, it's supposed to be Star Wars adjacent. It's supposed to like show us that like street level crime, like we talk about like the MCU and everything, like how they kind of got, you know, like god level universal threat, and then like they're finally starting to give us like street level crime with Daredevil and, you know, Peter Parker like becoming like the Spider-Man from the comic books, just kind of, you know, dealing with like earthly things instead of
Mhm.
like cosmic things, which is what people fell in love with about Spider-Man. Like, we always like the tagline, you know, in a galaxy far, far away, like in a galaxy, not like in a vacuum chamber. Like,
Yeah.
it's a whole world of,
It's a
it's
whole
a
universe.
whole
Yeah.
universe of people who are like going through shit at the same time. Like, and I feel like that part gets lost in the Star Wars movies because we're so focused on the Skywalker family. Like, no, like Palpatine took over everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Like,
Like the
he
Skywalker
ran
family wasn't the
everything.
only one to lose something, right?
Yeah.
And like, and the thing is that, you know, we do spend a lot of time focusing on them. Anakin Skywalker is one of my favorite characters, like one of the most tragic characters in like pop culture history. But it
1,000.
is fascinating to watch that story. But it's also fascinating to watch all of the other people who are like going through this terrible time. I think that there's a lot of stories that have been told in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, and it's because it's the darkest time in the galaxy that we're like aware of,
Yeah.
right? Because
Hmm.
so it has the potential for these like richer stories, and I hate to say it, but it's like how low everything is, like from an emotional standpoint, allows for the bigger payoffs at the end, and we see that in this episode. We've seen it in monologues like throughout the series. It's just great to see, and I'm glad that all these things kind of inform each other and continue to. I'll use the meme, but it's like it's poetry, rhymes. Like it really does, though. Like there was a moment in this episode that reminded me of the ending of Rebels, and I won't say it here because I don't want to spoil anything, but it's like it is just great
Man,
to
if they
kind of
haven't
see.
seen the ending of Rebels by this point, hey, what are you really doing here?
But it's just fun to see all these things kind of like come together and culminate.
Yeah. You know what else I really like about this show, or just like this version of Star Wars, was like ground level. We're always in some way, shape, or form like connected to the Jedi Order, or like we're dealing with characters who were around for what it was to have the Jedi. So it's just like you experience the absence of them. But like when New Hope came out, Jedi's were kind of like a myth. Like Luke
Hmm.
didn't. There's like he thought the Force was a myth. Like even in the Force Awakens, like when Han was just like, no, the Jedi, the Sith, the Force, all of it is real. Like, so it was just like, it's interesting being involved with characters who like were either too young, or some of them probably not even born, like when Palpatine took over. So it's just like they don't know anything but this. So it's not like you got like the older statesmen that like knew what the Jedi was. It was like, oh, like there was a time, a
Hmm.
more civilized time. Like, it's like you have characters who only know this, who like aren't waiting for the Jedi to come save them. It's not like, you know, the Jedi will figure it out. Like they'll
Right.
fix it. Like, it's just like, nah, we have to do this.
Yeah,
Like,
not everyone has their own personal Ben Kenobi, right? Like
exactly. And I love seeing that it's just like a group of people who like that it is all just myths. Like, what, there was a group of like of knights with light swords and fancy footwork that kept the world safe. Like,
yeah,
poppycock.
exactly. And it's like it's just fantastical enough for me to be like, yeah, no, why would they believe that?
Exactly. Because it's like, yeah, like if you're like someone who missed out on, you know, the Jedi Order, or like was born post Order 66, and someone tells you these stories, you're like, fuck out of here, what?
Not to mention, like, mad kudos to the Imperial propaganda machine completely writing the Jedi out of history.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
like people think it's a myth because 30 years passed without seeing something, and all of a sudden it just doesn't exist anymore.
All you heard were Jedi were bad, so Palpatine took care of the problem.
Mhm.
Like, that's all you heard. Like, and then he's like, oh shit, yeah, okay. Like, but yeah, but that's a great point. Like, if you were like, if someone, like, if we were born after Order 66, and, you know, we like had grandparents or like an uncle that was around for it. They was just like, yeah, like there's these group of guys that had some pretty sick robes. They used to be able to move shit with their minds. Like, shut up, grandpa.
Yeah, right.
You been getting into that blue milk again, sir? Like, someone's back on the mom, grandpa's back on death sticks. He's talking that shit.
He's too old to rethink his life.
Exactly. So we started with Cassian, and we see his season ends with him and Luthen, kind of where it began, the relationship, like on a ship off to nowhere. We were off to somewhere we don't know. Another crazy thing that I didn't see coming, I thought Luthen was like faking the funk about wanting to kill Cassian. I thought he was like saying that shit to appease Clea. He was like, yeah, we gotta kill him. But deep down, like, oh, I gotta keep this boy safe. Nah, he was really there to kill him. He was really there to, protect the order, or to protect the rebels. Like,
loose lips sink starships, man.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to, again, like, if it was intentional, kudos, chef's kiss. Like, watching, like, now that the show's done, I feel like if you go back from the beginning and watch it again, like, each episode is gonna feel totally different tonally, because a lot, especially in like everything leading up to the heist, the first heist, a lot of the reoccurring questions that we had here, between me, you, Yali, Miso, we were like, the fuck are they doing? Like, why are they rushing through these things? Like, it seemed like everything felt like, oh, this seems like it would be way later in the season, or like, oh, this feels end game. It's like, why are we doing this right now? But it's just like, it's crazy, like how important the heist seemed at the beginning of the season, but then like in retrospect, it wasn't shit. Like, it really didn't have.
It was just
to do
a
with
slingshot
anything.
to propel Cassian forward. Like, it was,
Exactly.
and don't get me wrong, we get Nemec's great monologue in this episode, and like,
So
it's good to see the seeds of that. Like, it's not just Cassian. Like, Vel and Cinta are, obviously pushed forward by Aldani as well. But like, damn, dude, like, it does seem like we spent so much time living with certain characters on a certain place, and it's like, didn't really, like, in the grand scheme of things, obviously, if like from a narrative standpoint, yeah, we get it, we understand why we were there, but it's like, damn, like, they really let us live here for a little bit. And that's kind of one of the nice things about the show too, right? Because it's like, oh, you're kind of hoping that certain people don't die, but that like everyone's on borrowed time in this series except for Mon Mothma. So
super facts. And that kind of just goes again to, I'm probably gonna say this a lot, like, during this episode. Like, I don't, if it was planned or if it just played out like that. Like, even like with the death stuff, like, 2-3 episodes ago, we were like kind of convinced, like, all right, this person's not making it out of the season. Why would they be in season 2? But it's just like, when you see how it plays out, like, it's just like, oh, it makes total sense for them to be in season 2. Like, you know what? There is still a lot more that you can flesh out. You know what it is? What I think this episode did really good, it did a great job of extending people's stories so that they can be in season 2. Because it's like, I would have thought, Mon Mothma's family's storyline was going to be done. Like, I think even them not showing the interaction between the daughter and the son, I thought that was genius. That still gives us room for a Timothée Chalamet cameo, because we never got to see what the boy looked like. But even even
he turns around. You must have not been paying attention, Matt. He's in the episode.
Did he? I was about to say, they can recast them. They can recast Timothy Brigham in, But even like that thread, felt like it would have just lived here. Like, it would have lived in season 1. Like, all right, Mon has to, sell her daughter off, like, to get money and everything and whatnot. But it's like, no, like, even them, like, not diving into her daughter, becoming ingratiated with, like, that guy's family and whatnot, even like them not expounding on that and whatnot. Vel and Cinta's relationship, like, that seemed like it was something that was pretty cut and dry. But then this past episode, seeing like how committed Cinta is to the cause versus Vel being like committed to Cinta. Like, I think that dynamic is going to be crazy next season. Like, how she's just like, yo, like, my goal is to keep you safe, and Cinta's like, bitch, I'm trying to save the world. Like, we can be in love when this is done. Like, I don't got time for this right now.
Right. It's like, it's and it's the difference in priorities between people. Like, Cinta sees a galaxy oppressed, and she just cannot she can't even sleep, probably, because she's so busy trying to be like, how are we going to like make our next move? And Vel is just like, this galaxy's gone to shit, but I love this person so much that I just kind of want to run away from it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't stop her from doing what she needs to do, but like you can tell she cares way more about Cinta than the cause. And you're right, it's going to set up an interesting dynamic. And I think it could set up for, you know, potentially a sacrifice that we don't see
Yeah.
coming, or a betrayal that is just so gut wrenching because you know that like Cinta will do anything. And I think that like we kind of got a glimpse at like she might even sacrifice Vel if she has to.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's crazy because it's like it's kind of like a meta commentary on like race relations, like to an extent. Like, you know, like Vel being rich and she kind
Mm-hmm.
of like she doesn't have to be in the position that she's in. It's a choice, which kudos to her. That speaks to, you know, people who like are in better circumstances, who like don't want to see, genuinely don't want to see people who are like less fortunate than them suffer. So that commentary, we need more people like that, people who
Mm-hmm.
have power, who can get involved. But in the same time, it's like there's still a disconnect between the two of them, because it's like Sansa doesn't really have a choice. Like, this is her life. Like, this
Mm-hmm.
is like, my family were slaughtered by stormtroopers. I don't have bread. Like, this rebellion, this is everything to me. Like, making sure that no one has to go through what I went through is like my primary goal. And Velso's, like you said, like they have a common goal, but like their motives are totally different. Not only are
Yeah.
they totally different, they contrast like
Yeah.
completely. Because Sansa's like, yo, stop worrying about me. It's not about me. Like, it's about everyone.
Yeah.
Like, and Vel's like, bitch, I love you. Like, that should
Yeah.
be enough.
And like I do think it's interesting you bring up like the kind of like difference between like races, because it's like Vel's privilege allows her to be like, this is romantic, right? Where versus,
Mhm.
you know, Cinta is like, I'm not going to let more people that should never have to see a tragedy like this see a tragedy like this. Exactly what you said. It's just it's people like to say Star Wars shouldn't be political, but it's at its best when it is.
Star Wars has only ever been political.
Only ever.
It's-
Go watch the prequels again.
I was about to say,
We can talk about trade disputes.
the separatist movement.
Yeah.
Like it's bathed in political undertones. Not even undertones. It is the tone.
Yeah.
Like, it's political tone by nature. Like, it's great. Well, I mean, I guess we kind of jumped the lead and covered Val and Cinta, so we can kind of put a pin on them and circle back if we need to. But I do kind of want to stay with Luthen. Oh, the reason why I had drawn that parallel, it's crazy how this show, like, very Game of Thrones-esque, can like make you feel a way about a character, change your feelings, and then change it again. It's just like with Luthen, it's just like, oh, here's someone that cares about Cassian and wants the best for him. And then it was just like there was like a moment of denial, like, what do you mean you want to kill him? You don't want to kill him. He don't want to kill him. Oh shit, he really does want to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
He's a piece of shit. And then at the end, it's just like he doesn't kill him, and then it seems that they're gonna like kind of go on a buddy cop adventure type of,
Yeah.
or a mentor mentee type thing. And it's like, all right,
Yeah.
like,
We
I'm
still
back
haven't
on.
uncovered why Luthen knows so much about Cassian. But regardless of that, like take all of that prior existing relationship away. Marva's speech got to him. Like
Oh,
they cut
1000%.
to his face when it's going on,
Literally,
and it's like he lets out kind of like a bit of a grin. And when he sees
1000%.
Cassian, I think Marva's speech is what stopped him from getting shot dead on his ship.
Yeah, and not only that, so simpatico. I'm glad we brought that up, because that kind of like has been his character beat, and it's like hindsight's like, oh shit, this is why things didn't make so much sense. Because it's like, if you go back to even like his uh not initial meeting with Mon, but like the meeting that him and Mon had after the heist, where Mon was just like, yo, like, people are gonna die because of what you did. And he was just like, that's what we need to happen. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
need people to die, because that'll what make people rise up. And even sacrificing the boy Krieger, like, even doing that, I feel like what you just said, Mon's speech getting to him, I mean Marva's speech getting to him, it's kind of been like a slow build to where Luthen is realizing, like, maybe his way isn't the only way. Maybe him and
Yeah.
Saul's way aren't the only two ways to inspire people. Maybe there is a way to, like, not treat people like currency, and, like, like, just treat people like people, and that'll be enough for them to be like, dang, this isn't how we should be treated.
There's like a disgust on his face when he's outside the main city, but still hears the turmoil going on of
Yeah.
like I can't believe all these people are dying down there. Like that's kind of like the vibe that I got from the scene.
Yep.
And there's a theory running around the internet. You know, it's certainly not mine. Screen Crushers covered it. It wasn't theirs either, but still, they put together a great video about Luthen potentially having been a Jedi. And every
I think I would love that.
yeah,
I'm not
every
mad at that.
moment of him not getting involved is him stepping away, in hence him giving up everything, using the tools of his enemies, aka the Sith, to do these things. I'm feeling like all this episode has done has driven me further down the like I do believe that theory, and if it doesn't happen, whatever, you know, I'm sure they'll find some way to make his character, you know, have an even greater end than I could possibly imagine. But it just feels right, and it kind of makes sense with him giving him a kyber crystal earlier. So like I did want to touch just kind of like on that a little bit.
Okay, yeah, let's stay here for a second.
The staff that Two Tubes pulls off him is like, you know, it kind of looks like a hilt. Like, so there's a few things in there that I think lend some credence to it, and it would explain the disgust on his face that he's just like, I should be down there helping them, but I know I can't, so
yeah,
I must leave.
And that kind of, and that's crazy. Again, recurring theme, whether it was done on purpose or if it just played out like that and works perfectly. Like you saying that does create like a very similar way that Ewan McGregor played Obi-Wan in like the first couple episodes of Obi-Wan. Like, you know, when people were being bullied in the market and he was just like, I want to help, but I can't. Like, that's not me anymore. I'm not that guy. Or even when what's the brothers' names that cameoed in like the second episode? Benny, damn it, them two brothers, the director brothers. Shit. It'll come to me. It's really gonna bother me. Whatever. Move on. But one of the brothers, Benny, whatever their last name is, that'll come to me randomly. That was like a runaway Jedi when he found Obi-Wan. He was like, Master Kenobi, and he was like, yeah, that ain't me. Hey, sorry. Wrong guy. I don't know what to tell you, but that is kind of like how Luthen's been playing it, you know, like not necessarily fast and loose, but very close to the chest. And then that even makes like his conversations, like, you know, when Mon was questioning him, like, bro, like, why are you moving like this? And he was like, because this is the only way. And that would make sense for like a Jedi who was like, yo, we did everything the right way and look what happened. Or we did everything like what we thought was the right way and we lost. So it's just like, I don't know an alternative. I knew that way, it didn't work. So then I got to try this way. So it's just like those conversations. And even Clea, because it's like, I always felt like Clea was like, maybe she was the one that kind of like had to convince him to like, yo, no, it's kill or be killed. It's cutthroat. Yeah. Like, you know, we save who we can save. We use who we can use. Like, you know, in the grand calculus of the multiverse, your sacrifice will save millions. Like,
yeah, right.
As Dr. Strange said.
And if she ends up being his Padawan, it kind of like harkens back to Qui-Gon telling Obi-Wan, "You're a much wiser Jedi than I." You know, we are what they grow beyond. To use another quote from The Last Jedi, Yoda says it to Luke. These, like, you know, these younger characters are pushing the older characters. The older characters are pushing the younger characters. There is something to be learned from everyone. And no matter at what stage of your life you're in, like you can be pushed to greater heights. It's like, it's important that we kind of like keep that in mind as we view these narratives moving forward, I think, because it definitely feels like a theme of the show that, you know, our brothers and sisters are the ones that are going to like, teamwork makes the dream work, essentially, you know. But it's not like, it's a little more subtle in Star Wars, because what are we but the sum of our parts, I think, is like more of like a apt way of talking about the rebellion, you know. But and we kind of see that come together in Rogue One as well. I wouldn't call it necessarily like 100% teamwork. Like, we're not watching the Mighty Ducks out here. But
the Quack Attack is back, Jack.
But it does, you know, like we lean on each other for, you know, for things to succeed sometimes.
Yeah. And even in the Jedi Tales of a Jedi, like when Qui-Gon and Dooku and Yaddle had that like brief interaction in the hallway, like after Qui-Gon was like trying to convince the council like he found a Sith, and they kind of had that, like you were saying, like, you know, our students like end up becoming like, you know, like what we never could become, or like what we dream to be, or like, you know, they grow up so fast. Like he had like that reminiscent moment, like, damn, I remember he was a little kid, and look at you now, man. Like, look at you now. But I would love if Luthen was a ex Jedi and Cleo was like his Padawan. Like that'd be great. Or even like to take it like a step further, like if Cleo was his Padawan, but like they had to go on the run like dumb early into her training. So it's just like, so she isn't really trained in the Jedi way, which is
No.
why
Yeah.
she's so cold-hearted and cynical. So it's just like a balancing act. Like, damn, like had you been trained, you wouldn't be acting like this.
Mm.
But because you act like this is what's kept us alive so long, like so it's just like
And if
a
she is, she's not
necessary
the only
evil.
Jedi to have that journey, right? Like we see Ezra's training is not traditional. Luke's training is far from traditional.
Facts.
But it's like, how do they react to it? Well, there are brief stints where Ezra is leaning much more to the dark side than any normal Padawan would. And if Clea is a Padawan, she's definitely leaning heavy into it.
Yeah, even for people who played, the game, some of Cal's move sets weren't the most Jedi-ist.
Yeah.
Like, some of the moves he could do
He's
definitely
stabbing a
weren't
lot of
just
stormtroopers.
facts. Definitely force choking and stabbing in the air. Like many, I used to use that move all the time, playing that game for sure. But yeah, and again, this speaks to just like the long-term planning and everything. Like 2-3 episodes ago, I would have been fine with Luthen not making it out of season 1. Like,
Same.
enough had been done in this show to like have satisfied me. Like, oh, that was a good character arc. Them scars guards, aha. But then like them pulling the 52 fake out and him actually really wanting to kill him and then having to make that decision, like him handing him the blaster, like, yo, kill me or take me with you. Like, it's just like, oh no, there's so much more that they could do. Or even like the speech he gave to like his spy on the inside. Like he was just like, bro, like I essentially I had to I turned myself into a bad person to like try to do good things. And he was just
Mhm.
like he basically kind of it gave that speech gave me like Constantine vibes or like Vegeta vibes. Matter of fact, when Vegeta was Majin Vegeta and he like was about to fight Boo and Pickles was like, yo, die. And Vegeta was just like, damn, you think I'm gonna see Goku when I die? He's like, nah, you've done a lot of fucked up shit. You're definitely going to hell. Or the HFIL. So like Luthen's speech on like that catwalk, like him saying like, yo, I've done a lot of fucked up shit, or I've let a lot of fucked up shit happen, or I was like the catalyst of a lot of bad things. Like, even though it's for the greater good, and I know like my actions will help others in the long terms, like I know there ain't no saving my soul. Like I know like
Mhm.
I'm done. I'm tainted meat to reference The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So it's just like I wouldn't be mad at like and that speech with that theory, because this is the first time, because it's funny you said it, because I had seen a lot of YouTube like, oh, crazy Andor theories, and it was like Luthen was like the JPEG, but like I didn't click on it or whatnot. So and it probably was that. So it's just like even him giving that speech now tied into that theory kind of makes sense. Like his monologue, like saying like, yeah, like I've let a lot of bad thing happen, or I've done a lot of bad things like for a good reason, but I know that's not gonna like salvage me. It's not gonna save my soul. That kind of, again, like I use the Vegeta comparison and whatnot. DB4L podcast, shout outs to the squad. But that was even like Darth Vader's kind of like dying moments with Luke, like, yo, like tell your sister you were right. Like I
Mhm.
know I fucked up pretty bad. I know, even though I took down the Emperor, that's not gonna like fix everything that I've done leading up until now. But just tell your sister you were right about me and whatnot.
Every day you wake up and can choose to be a hero or a villain. So
Facts. Super facts. All right, so we covered Cassian, we covered Luthen. We got to get into mine, man. That I will say, for as short of a scene as that was, that may have been one of the best well played chess moves in like the history of Star Wars. When she was just like, "You've been gambling again," because like
Mhm.
when she figured out that she wasn't going to be able to hide that $400,000 deficit in her bank
Yep.
account, like, so her being like telling the driver, knowing he's a spy, yo, can we get some privacy, please? Like, and the husband's like, what I do now? She's like, you've been gambling like around the house, like, and then they shouted out the casino
Canto
planet.
bite.
Yeah, Canto White. They shouted out the planet. It was like, yeah, go do that there. But like, when I tell you, I was geeking. I was like, let's fucking go, man. Like, I was like, that was so smart, yo. And maybe that was Vel's idea. It seemed like that's kind of what they was like working on when she was trying to figure out a way out of it. But like her putting it on the husband, kind of goes back to, shout out to Misa, what we were saying, like for her to become, like the Joan of Arc of the rebellion, she is, we know that, or at least we don't ever see her husband and daughter in any Star Wars property past this point. So we know like she's either gonna like leave them physically and then they're gonna go on about their own business, which is kind of seeming like that's what's happened. Like maybe they
It
don't
does feel like
necessarily,
it's
yeah, maybe
going
they don't
that
necessarily die. They just
direction.
kind of part ways, which must suck. Like as I do kind of feel like we kind of hinted on it again. I do think that her and her daughter are gonna come to like some type of resolution that maybe not fix their relationship, but at least put some tape on it. Like they can like part ways amicably. But I was gonna say it must be a crazy thing like if her daughter and husband do live and it's just like they see their wife or mom as like the head of like rebel propaganda. It's just like, hey, that's my mom.
Yeah, and it doesn't kind of like beg the question, or it's like, yeah, is she going to sacrifice everything, like literally, to have like her family members die in the process, or is the sacrifice just going to be essentially, her having to leave them and move on without them? And you kind of hope that, like, from a story standpoint, that she gets that resolution with her daughter, where maybe even if they can't see eye to eye, they can like walk away respectfully. But I guess we'll have to wait till season 2 to find out, because that to me is like the biggest question mark. Is like, we know that something's going to get to a point where Mon has to leave, like she's linked to like the rebels essentially being this, like, she, like you said, like the person on the posters, essentially, like she's the one that people are calling out. That point, like that inflection point, like we know that she gets picked up by the Ghost crew and makes her way to Yavin.
Right.
Okay, what leads up to that point? And I think we
Yeah.
will see that next season.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. Does Ahsoka come out? I would imagine because they're already filming it, so I probably would be dropping before season 2 of
Andor season
Andor,
2
right?
just started
Oh,
filming.
they started filming, right, right, right,
Yeah.
right, right, right. Because I was gonna say, like, I wouldn't be mad if like well, it can't happen now, but I wouldn't be upset if like our first Ezra sighting was in season 2 of Andor versus Ahsoka. Like you said, like leading up to that scene. Like if that scene, like if they like redid that scene, I mean, I guess it would hit better now if that scene is like reshot like physically like in season 2. I think that'd be dope.
It would be cool.
I know
There's certain
timeline.
things.
I know timeline wise, they'd have to like flub the timeline a little bit
Yeah,
to
right.
make it
Like
work.
maybe different actors would have to portray certain characters depending on who plays who and what's going on where. But there are certain things that, like, we know these stories are happening at the same time.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear Ezra's speech from the, like, towards the end of season 1, um, somewhere in like Andor. I don't think it will happen now because we made it through the whole season and we didn't catch it. But it
yeah,
would just like be nice to see like these stories overlapping a little bit as motivation for each other. You know what I mean? Like, Saul doesn't have to be the only through line in every Star Wars story.
Saul and Rex.
Yeah, like
Saul,
we've been calling this the Andor world tour, but Saul is actually on the world tour. Like,
right.
he's
It's
been in everything.
it's Saul, Rex, and the word fulcrum is the
Hmm.
through is the through line through all of this. But facts. But yeah, nah, I wouldn't be. Yeah, that would be cool. Even if it was like an Easter egg, like it's like a radio recording, like someone like has it on, like and it's like in the back. It's like, oh shit, that's Edgar's speech. Like even
Yeah.
something like that would be really dope. But nah, I'm super excited for my storyline because again, everything up until the last episode would have been content if this story beat ended in season 1. Like I would have been like, enough happened here. Like, all right, cool, bet. Like even like what we had predicted, like her selling her daughter off might have been like the thing to break her enough where she could be like, all right, I can leave behind all my worldly possessions and join the rebellion full time and like be the tip of the spear, so to speak. But it's just like again, what this last episode did is it extended everybody's storyline for the
Hmm.
most part, and it's just like, no, she still is in that Senate lifestyle. Like, so that means, which is kind of sad when you think about it, that means that something more is probably going to happen like to her personal life that's going to like push her to be like, all right, there's nothing tying me to this lifestyle that she's on Coruscant, right? The planet
Yeah.
that she, all
Hmm.
right, cool, yeah, because Is that where they're from? Because I feel like they reference another place.
They're
Like
from
what
Chandrilla, so she's
that's
the senator
the
from Chandrilla. But
gotcha. But they're on Coruscant. Her
yeah,
storyline takes place on Coruscant. Gotcha. Yeah, so it's just like whatever like removes her ties to Coruscant. It seems that it hasn't happened yet. So it's just like, how much more does this lady have to go through?
a lot. She has to go through a lot.
Yeah, which is crazy because it's like, we talk about, Saul and Rex and Word Fulcrum that's through it. She's been like a through line through like so much Star Wars shit. Like
But
so
we
many
never get
things.
to see her. Like it's like one of those things
Right.
just like she's always there, but we never
Yeah, she's
like.
like
And now that we're
mentioned.
finally fleshing it out, it's like wow, she's such a great character. Like
Yeah, you're right, because it's like she's either mentioned like a hologram of some
mhm.
sort, like a recording of a message. Like it's never like we never really sit with her too
And
long.
Genevieve O'Reilly is like she's like I will play it every single time.
Yo, I
Like
got y'all.
and like and who would have thought just random casting and a bunch of deleted scenes for Revenge of the Sith would have turned into like this huge career
Yo,
move for her because she's
facts.
voiced her on Rebels and now she's here just absolutely
Rogue
killing it. She was
One
in
and
Rogue One.
everything.
Yeah.
Like I wonder if it'd be cheesy and it would definitely be fan servicey. I wonder if there will be like an inclusion of her like getting the iconic cut. Like I wonder if that'll be like a scene. Like
I
her
wouldn't hate
getting
it.
like yeah, I wouldn't be mad. I'm like, oh, I'd be like, that's the thing. That's the thing. That's the thing right there. But I would probably say, and this is just kind of if I had to be nitpicky, not losing any main player in the last episode was very surprising.
Yeah.
Like it was very surprising. But that kind of just goes back to what we've been saying. Like they've been kind of like leading, like tricking us down a path. Like oh yeah, no, we're gonna go this way. Psych.
Yeah.
Like this is what you guys get. And then I also love the fact that it was announced and it seems that they're sticking to their guns. Like, nah, this is a 2-season show.
Right.
This was always only ever going to be a 2-season show. We're not looking for a cash grab. We're not about to fucking House of Dragons this shit and give you fucking 7 seasons of a story that there's only like 10% left to tell. Like, boy, how I'm not looking forward to season 2. Like, not to get off task. Like, but the fact that they've given us like, nah, it's ending here. Like, it's 24 episodes in total. We gave you 12, we're giving you another 12. Like, so it's just like with Book of Boba Fett, when we were reviewing that, it was kind of up in the air.
Oh, so many question marks. We had no idea what was going on.
Exactly. And because like we don't know, is this an anthology series, and then it'll be like Book of Fennec Shan or Book of such and such, or is it like Book of Boba Fett season 2? Because there's that ambiguity up in the air and we have no idea. It's like you were saying, like there's so many loose ends and open questions. But like with Andor, there's like, no, we're giving y'all 2 seasons. The movie is obviously how it ends. So it's like you just said, it's just how do we get to that?
Yeah.
How do we get these characters to where you see them in Rogue One or wherever they popped up, whether it was in like Rebels or prequels, like, or where however get or the Bad Batch. Like, let's get these people to the place where people are like, oh yeah, I remember that they were there. That's really what this is about. So I am thoroughly excited. But we covered Cassian, we covered Luthen, we covered Vel and Cinta. I guess
I'm
we can
ready.
take it to the bad
I'm
side.
ready to take it to the bad side. You're lucky that, or Miso's lucky that she's not here because I'm really ready for you guys to drop your spoons because
it's still a season 2.
it's a match made in bad guy heaven, dude. They are
Cyril eating cereal.
Cyril eating cereal with his shame fetish.
Yo, hilarious facts. You know what it is? She reminds him of his mom. Only my mom talks to me like that. Turn on.
You were in trouble, and meanwhile Deidre's like,
yo, I know, like, because TV has to TV. Like, I get like to appease, whether it be like the shareholders or people who are into shipping guys, but like that shit feels so forced and unnecessary. Like,
he's a creep, dude. That's what the story is.
I do not need Cyril and Dedra like to be a thing. Like,
I don't think that's the thing. I think that like Cyril thinks that him and Dedra can be a thing, and Dedra's just like, I reluctantly keep you around because you saved my life. That's how it's going to go from. But also, Think about how this failure is going to impact her position at the ISB. They might both be out to fucking save their reputation now.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. I don't know, Mike. You just keep furthering my fuel that I feel like they're gonna switch sides.
Nah.
I feel like the more that they're shamed and ridiculed and told that they're the black sheep of the ISB and
they're bad to the bone.
Empire, they're gonna be like, we're gonna take our towns to South Beach.
I have seen enough of the redemption story. I just want them to suffer.
No, I feel you. You know, I definitely at this point, prior to the last episode, if there was gonna be a turn, I would have leaned more towards Cyril being the person to like switch, because this is like, yo, like y'all have been kicking shit on my name my whole life. Like my mom talks down on me, the Empire talks down on me. I got fired for which fucked up enough. Like I got fired for solving a murder. I got fired for doing my job.
Yeah.
Like, this all started because I did my job too good and I got suffered for it. But now, just if I had to, like, you know, put my money on a horse, like I kind of leaning more towards like Dedra. If there would be a switch, because like you were saying, Cyril just seems like he's circling back to murder his mom at some point in time. Like he's got to take he's gonna take this. Yeah, I was right. I knew this was gonna happen. The mission didn't go. I feel like even though it was a shit show for the ISB and everything went bad, I feel like Cyril still in some form got some type of validation, like that Dedra, who for now at least is a prominent person in the ISB, like for her to be like, damn, probably should have listened to you. Like that's just what he's been waiting for, like this whole time.
Yeah, he got the validation he needed to be like,
exactly.
This will keep me going for the next couple months, assuming that things go well.
Right. So, but I wouldn't be surprised. But I kind of love that for them. I wouldn't be mad at Dedra like losing her position, or even like if she gets like kicked out of the ISB.
Man, I kind of hope she loses her position and has to move in with Cyril and interact with her mom or the mom.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be a place she doesn't have anywhere to go. So it's just
she's gonna be like,
you can crash here.
I don't like you, but I'll talk to Uncle Harlow for you.
I'll see if I can get you a job. You want some coffee? Cyril, how does she take her coffee?
It's Kath. It's Kath, man.
It's definitely Kath. You're right. I'm sorry, fans. You want some Kath? No, you know what she's gonna do? Get her settled, and then we'll talk about my missing watch. That's how she's gonna get it.
And she'll eventually dump him. I never trusted her, Cyril.
I knew she was no good for you. This is why you listen to your mother.
Yeah.
Facts. But no, I love that idea of her losing her position, and even if she gets kicked out, or even if she gets like put in like a janitorial role, and she was like, yeah, nah, call Cyril up, like, yo, we gotta go get Cassian. He's ruining my life. Like, I wouldn't be mad if they like kind of go rogue. Double entendre, don't ask me out. Wouldn't be mad if they kind of like go into business for themselves. And it's like, yo, like, all right, I screwed the pooch here. Let's pull our resources. You know some things, I know some things. Let's just try to do it ourselves, because it definitely. I'm excited. I am thoroughly excited for season 2. Again, again, another critique while we're talking about like Dedra and whatnot, what have you. Kruger being a red herring felt weird, like, because I feel like they kept mentioning his name, and that's why I kept asking, like, oh, like, has he popped up other places, or like been referenced? Like, has his squad been mentioned like by Saul in any capacity, any show? But it seems like he was just a name.
Yep. Just cannon fodder.
1000%. Like, was double entendre, because this is a canon show, so like, it's like the character's a canon role, but you know, we don't even get to see him. We just see a hologram projection of him.
Yeah.
Like, insert generic bald guy with beard here. we don't get anything. But who else did we miss anybody? We kind of touched on Bix a little bit. She didn't really had too much going on.
Yeah. It's like the Ferrix family. It's like hard to be like they had a big moment, and I guess like while we have a couple minutes left here, let's give the flowers to the literally live orchestra playing music throughout the episode. It really was like a nice build up, and I love that the beginning of this episode has them like out of sync, kind of like doing the theme together. Like it really just
Yeah.
like felt like, oh, they're preparing, they're getting ready, and you hear them do it, and then they start to all like march together. It was a really, really well done shot, and like the through line there of like just watching the Empire scramble as they marched into town
Yeah.
made everything feel so grounded. Like from a cinematography standpoint, we kind of see like Vel running around in a few shots, and that was awesome to see. Um, so big kudos there for them, like incorporating that into the episode and like having it really work, not only as like a set piece, but also as the story like progressed.
Yeah, and again, I guess ending things the way that you start them is always a good payoff when for content. The repetitious theme here of this episode of being, like, I don't know if it was done like this on purpose or if it just played out like that way. That whole time with like the funeral, band and everything and the music and that whole pomp and circumstance, it reminded me of Marva's speech when the gong guy was banging and she was like, "You hear that? That's the
Mhm.
sound of a
A
of a
reckoning.
reckoning." Yeah, and then she was just like, "But you shouldn't." She's like, "When it stops is when you should worry." So I like that saying. Like, I don't know if like it played like that on purpose, but it's like the whole time, like the music was beautiful. Like you said, like visually it was awesome. Watching like the Empire be nervous that whole time, I was just like, "Oh, some shit's about to go down." Like I was like on the edge of my seat, like, "Oh, it's about to go down." And then like the music stops and then she makes the speech and then like the attack. So I was just like, I wonder if like she played the long game planting that seeds. Like, yeah, like when the music's playing, like, yeah, keep pay attention, but it's when
Mhm.
the music stops that's when you should be scared. So it's like having that payoff kind of play out literally, like, as she explained it like many episodes ago. I was like, oh, she's been cooking this up for
The
forever.
architect of
Like,
this explosion, it
look,
was more than just the man in the shop.
look, we were saying, like we thought the name of the show being Andor was about Cassian Andor. Nah, it was Marva Andor.
Mm.
Marva Andor this whole time. But Mikey, so it's 10:01. I feel like we've covered all the main beats very well. And it's always a pleasure. I always love talking to you about these things. And I'm sure I'll see you on season 2. I guess final predictions for the season 2 whenever we get it. Where do you see us going next?
I think we're gonna get a time skip. I think some time is gonna pass, and we're gonna get much closer to Rogue One. I have a feeling if they keep things as tight as they did this season, we'll get to see hopefully the introduction of K2SO.
Mm,
Bring Alan Tudyk into the fold. Like they had enough of a relationship in Rogue One where it's like it'd be dumb not to have him there.
that's facts.
So I'd love to see that. We're gonna get a lot of character deaths, obviously, with which is good because I'm fine with them like backloading it, especially with the you know being so interested in like where these characters can go from here is great. I'm hoping that we can get some more storylines that focus a little more on Cassian, having him be like the main character of the show, because it just felt like even in the finale of his own show, he was not at the forefront of things.
That's a
Um,
good point.
which kind of speaks to his character being someone who's a little better at espionage, than
Hmm.
being on the front lines. But
Which makes sense because that's Luthen's preferred method of rebelling.
mhm,
Like, is he prefers like like you said, espionage, sneaky guerrilla warfare, strike by night type style. And even in like the movie, and it's kind of crazy that you say that because like even in Rogue One, like even though he's one of the leads, it still was kind of about Jin. Like
yeah,
it wasn't really Cassian's movie.
right.
Like, so it's like he was in it a lot of it and like played a main part, like ended it with her on the beach and whatnot. But it's just like that's kind of who he's always been. Like he's just like, all right, he's a strong enough personality and is knowledgeable enough that it's like, all right, we're willing to follow you into battle if we need to. But that kind of goes back to what you were saying before about him being needing to be pushed. Like, because we know by Rogue One he is Captain Cassian Andor, so he does
Mhm.
hold high rank in the rebellion. But like you say, he does still kind of play like those behind the scenes roles. Because like even though he's captain, from the moment that we are introduced to him to when they go to the rainy planet to try to kill her dad, to even when they meet up with Saul, he's still kind of just following orders. Like
Yeah.
it's never really a situation where he's just like, all right, guys, follow my lead. This is what we're doing. It's always either like, leadership by committee, or he's like, yo, Cassian, like you're our best guy. Go handle that for us real quick. And he's like, yeah, gotcha. Aye, Captain. All
Right.
right. So it's just like I'm definitely I'm rolling. I'd say my prediction, I think because for season one, even though we did travel a bit, it was more grounded. Like we were either in Ferrex in the ISB base, or the prison. What was that? Not Narkina 5, 6, 7,
Hmm.
8, 9. One of those things.
The
That's
Narkina 5's the new shoe that's going to hit the market. Yeah.
it's gonna set the world on fire. But yeah, I think we're gonna get a lot more travel season two, because it does seem like Cassian does take on a lot more of Luthen's character traits in Rogue One. So I think like they're gonna have like that bond, not necessarily bonding experience, but like mentor mentee type of situation, which a crazy dynamic, which you didn't really touch on, which I'm very curious to see how it plays out in season two. Not assuming, because we know that Cassian is in Rogue One, so it's pretty much confirmed that Luthen is gonna take Cassian under his wing.
Mhm.
Clea wanted that man smoked.
Yeah.
Like Clea was just like, no, he needs to die. It was pretty much her idea. Like, yo,
Yeah.
we gotta kill him. Like he has to die. He knows too much. So it's just like, I wonder how that's gonna play into season two. Friends become enemies, enemies become friends. Like I wonder if like
Is
Clay is
she
gonna
his
be.
sister? We'll
I'm
never
still.
know. And by
I
we'll
mean,
never know,
this.
I mean, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out next time on season two of Andor. I mean, that kind of still would play really well into like Clea being his sister. Like if he shows up at the antiquity store with Cassian, she's like, "Fuck is he doing here? I thought he was supposed to die." Because I can't imagine that Clea is too knowledgeable at this moment in time as to what happened. Because
Hmm.
Luthen kind of like went there secretively, and then he didn't really tell her where he was going. And then now they're off on an adventure. One could assume that they're going to Coruscant together. We who knows, who, or to go see Saul, who knows. But we will find out. We will all find out together, guys. But that is our time. Do we want to briefly touch on the post credit scene? They gave us a
We
real
should.
NCU-ish, really fast. So we get a really dope post credit screen, which I thank you, good sir Mikey, for telling me about it, because I definitely wouldn't have might have not sat around, because Star Wars doesn't really do end credit stuff, but Disney's gonna Disney.
Hmm.
So, and we got to see that those starfish stings,
That they were building
those
on Narkina
asterisk
5.
things that they were building on Akina 5 were basically kind of like Connect Four pieces that are holding the Death Star together. So that was and we called that, we
We
literally said like,
did.
yo, that's
Yeah.
probably some shit for the Death Star. Like, which is crazy.
It's just it's kind of crazy to think that like maybe the prison break, Kino's sacrifice wasn't in vain. Like it delayed the Death Star from getting completely finished.
Oh, that's
And
a good point.
and like just to kind of see, I mean, that technically that post credit scene could take place at any time, but to know that
That's
it's that
true.
close to completion is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just like wow, like, and in some ways, Cassian is the construct of his own demise, which
Yeah.
is kind of also like a weird story beat for, but it's like the implications of this
Damn,
show
that's
are
a really
obviously
good
like,
point. He is kind of the like
yeah,
he helped build the thing that takes him out.
yeah, which is like it's kind of wild when you think about it, like that. Well, the monstrosity that is the Death Star, something that has been such an iconic thing in Star Wars for it
Yeah.
to, even though it's only in like 2 movies, but it's crazy, man, that like everything with the show never loses its vision, even in its post-credit scene. So
Facts. Yeah, and I'll just kind of end expounding on what you just said. Like the Death Star is such an iconic thing in like nerd lore, but it's always crazy because like when we're introduced to it in New Hope, because it's already pre-constructed and built, and then even when it's rebuilt again magically, about the untold time skip between Empire and Return. I think maybe because it's like already built, you don't really like grasps the gravity of like they built a moon spaceship.
mhm.
I guess they're like a giant moon spaceship. But like I love how they like even at the end of Revenge of the Sith, you're like seeing it constructed, and it's like the outline and the shell and everything, but you still never like get this overall sense of like, oh, when they finish that, we're fucked. But I feel like this show or other prequels have like, because like showing like how long it's taking to be built, it's like that this has kind of just been like a looming doom that's
Hmm.
like been lingering over Star Wars. Like, oh, I know what's gonna happen when they finish that. Like, so I really do appreciate that, Mikey. But thank you for being here with me again, Team Two Box, half a Team Two Box,
Have a Team Two Box. Shout out
half a Team Two
to
Box.
Miso. Shout out to Yali. We hope you guys are feeling better, having fun with your family. But we're always here to hold it down, man.
We are here to hold it down, but I'm sure you will see me and Mikey on something else for foreshadowing for the flagship podcast show of Fandom Spotlight DB4L. And then I'm sure you'll see us back here for season 2 of Andor and whatever other Star Wars and or nerd culture things they want to do reviews for. But that has been our time. I have been Mr. Matthew Porter, aka Matty Ice. He has been Darth Plagueis the Wise himself, super producer extraordinaire, Mr. Mikey Campbell. And we have been Fandom Spotlight Reacts. Always and remember, follow that fandom and may the force be with you.
Always.
Peace.